Welcome to Expanding Your Faith, a podcast hosted by Bishop Greer Godsey of the Old Catholic Churches International. Expanding Your Faith brings together a panel of well-educated clergy and laity to discuss modern events with a biblical perspective. Our podcast is about to start. Please stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to Expanding Your Faith. I'm Bishop Greer, and joining me tonight is Reverend Marc.
Hello everyone.
And Bishop Ben.
Greetings and blessings to everybody on this fine Saturday.
So we've had a lot of really kind of deep subjects lately, so I thought tonight we would do something a little different. We're going to do some jokes and cigar talk and just kind of chill with everybody. Take questions and stuff from the audience if there are any, and everything, and just have a peaceful evening and give you all a chance just to kind of veg out a little bit as you listen to us. So we will start off. I think Reverend Marc had a couple of jokes he wanted to share. He's got a whole list of dad jokes over here, I think. So
something like that. I know you always intro the podcast with "We're here to expand your faith," and I'm thinking, oh, maybe not tonight.
Maybe not tonight. Yeah.
I got one. I've told this one before. At a prayer meeting, I asked my pastor to pray for my hearing. He placed his hands on my ears and he prayed. Afterwards, my pastor asked if my hearing was any better. I said I wouldn't know until Monday when I appear before the judge at the courthouse.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you gotta be a little more detailed sometimes when you ask for prayer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was my intro joke. I've got a few bulletin bloopers that I've told over I'll tell two or how about three? I'll tell three.
Go ahead.
These are bulletin bloopers from churches around everywhere. Low self-esteem support group will meet Thursday at 7 to 8:30. Please use the back door.
Oh, God.
Oh.
The third verse of Blessed Assurance will be sung without musical accomplishment.
Probably.
This is one of my favorites. For those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs.
Right. Thankfully, David makes sure we don't have those kind of bloopers at MCC. So.
I don't know that we've had any bloopers in the bulletin in the last while, so
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
If you do, you gotta keep an archive of them.
Right.
That's right. So I can add to my little
Your
collection.
repertoire.
A pastor is walking down the street one day when he notices a small boy trying to use a doorbell on the house across the street. However, the boy is very small and the doorbell is too high for him to reach. After watching the boy's effort for some time, the pastor walks across the street, up to the little fellow, and rings the doorbell. Kneeling next to the child, the pastor smiles and asks, "And now what, little man, my little man?" To which the boy replies, "Run!"
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
You've said this one before. A Sunday school teacher was teaching the 10 Commandments to her 5- and 6-year-olds. After explaining the commandment to honor thy father and mother, she asked, "Is there a commandment that teaches us how to treat our brothers and sisters?" One little boy shouted, Thou shalt not kill.
I got to remember that one. That was good.
That's good.
Yeah, that is good. Dang. Y'all are bad.
Bulletin bloopers. Weight Watchers will meet at 7 p.m. at the First Presbyterian Church. Please use large double door at the side entrance.
Ouch.
Ooh.
Next Thursday, there will be tryouts for the choir. They need all the help they can get.
I've known choirs like that, yes.
Yep.
Let's see here. Oh, this one's funny. The ladies' Bible study will be held Thursday morning at 10 a.m. All ladies are invited to lunch in the fellowship hall after the BS is done.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
A fellow went to the doctor who told him that he had a bad illness and only had a year to live. So he decided to talk to his pastor. After the man explained his situation, he asked the pastor if there was anything he could do. What you do is you go out and buy a late 70s or 80s model Dodge pickup, said the pastor. Then go get married to the meanest, ugliest woman you can find and buy yourself an old house trailer in the panhandle of Oklahoma. The fella asked, will this help me live longer? No, said the pastor, but it will make what time you do have seem like forever.
A Sunday school teacher asked the children just before she dismissed them to go to church, and why is it necessary to be quiet in church? A little girl replied, because people are sleeping.
I've been to churches like that, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Small town have 4 churches. Presbyterian, Methodist, Catholic, and Baptist. All 4 had a serious problem with squirrels in the church. Each church in its own fashion had a meeting to deal with the problem. Presbyterians decided that it was predestined that squirrels be in the church and that they would just have to live with them. The Methodists decided they should deal with the squirrels lovingly in the style of Charles Wesley. They humanely trapped them and released them in a park at the edge of town. Within 3 days, they were all back in the church. The Catholics also humanely trapped them and attempted to teach them the rhythm method, which of course did not work. The Baptists had the best solution. They voted the squirrels in as members. Now they only see them at Christmas and Easter.
There you go. Smart.
Couple more bulletin bloopers here.
Go ahead.
The pastor would appreciate it if the ladies of the congregation would lend him their electric girdles for the pancake breakfast next Sunday.
Ooh, those electric girls. Tell you what.
Ushers will eat latecomers. Ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It is a good chance to get rid of the things not worth keeping around the house. Bring your husbands.
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
The church had a picnic and invited the entire community to come. The pastor placed a basket full of apples on one end of the table with a sign that said, take only 1 apple, please. Remember, God is watching. On the other end of the table was a plate of cookies, where one of the children had placed a sign saying, take all the cookies you want. God is watching the apples.
Miss Smart was fumbling in her purse for her offering when a large television remote fell out and clattered into the aisle. A curious usher bent down to retrieve it for her and whispered, do you always carry your TV remote to church? No, she replied, but my husband refused to come with me this morning, and I figured this was the most evil thing that I could do to him legally.
Right.
Oh my God.
A little girl asked her mom, "Where do people come from?" Her mother answered, "God made Adam and Eve, and they had children, and that's how all mankind was made." A couple of days later, she asked her father the same question. The father answered, "Many years ago there were monkeys, which the human race evolved from." The confused little girl returned to her mother and said, "Mommy, how is it possible you told me we were created by God, and Daddy said we came from monkeys?" The mother answered, "Well, dear, it's very simple. I told you about my side of the family, and your father told you about his." Ooh.
Oh, my goodness. The church council met to discuss the pastor's compensation package for the upcoming year. After the meeting, the chair of the council told the pastor, "We're very sorry, Pastor, but we decided we cannot give you a raise next year." "But you must give me a raise," said the pastor. "I am but a poor preacher." "I know," the council chair said. "We hear you every Sunday."
Oh no.
Oh, dang.
That's terrible.
Man. Mm.
Oh, my goodness.
A businessman needed $1 million to close an important business transaction. He went to church to pray for the money. He knelt and started praying next to a man who was praying for $100 he needed to pay an urgent debt. The businessman took out his wallet, pressed $100 into the other man's hand. Overjoyed, the man got up and left the church. The businessman then closed his eyes and prayed, "And now, Lord, that I have your undivided attention."
Couple of bulletin bloopers. The sermon this Sunday, Jesus walks on the water. The sermon tonight, searching for Jesus. Remember in prayer the many who are sick of our church and community. Smile at someone who is hard to love. Say hail to someone who doesn't care much about you. Don't let worry kill you off. Let the church help.
As a pastor, I get that, yes.
Yep.
A local pastor joined a community service club, and the members thought they would have a little fun with him. Under the name badge, they printed hog collar as his occupation. Everyone made a big fanfare as the badge was presented. The pastor responded by saying, "I'm usually called the shepherd of the sheep, but I guess you know your people better than I do."
There will be a church board meeting immediately after the service, announced the pastor. After the close of the service, the church board gathered at the back of the sanctuary for the announced meeting. But there was a stranger in their midst, a visitor who had never attended their church before. "My friend," said the pastor, "didn't you understand that this is a meeting of the board?" "Yes," said the visitor. "And after today's sermon, I suppose I'm just as bored as anyone else who came to this meeting."
All right. Right.
Wow.
My grandson was visiting one day when he asked, "Grandma, do you know how you and God are alike?" I mentally polished my halo while I asked, "No, how are we alike?" "You're both old," he replied.
Oh my.
Uh-oh.
A little girl from Alabama went to a church for the first time ever when she was visiting her grandparents in Michigan. When the pastor announced it was time for the Lord's Supper, she was excited and hungry. The congregation filled up the altar rail, and the child watched in confusion as her grandparents received a wafer and small plastic cup of wine. She could hardly wait to get back to the pew to tell her grandma that Jesus definitely wasn't from the South. "How do you know that, dear?" asked the grandma. "Because That was the poorest meal I have ever seen, she said. Mama would have at least given everyone some cornbread and sweet tea.
Right? An accountant dies and goes to heaven. He is met by St. Peter, who goes through the usual questionnaire. What sort of accountant are you? Said St. Peter. Public practitioner, is the reply. Name? He gives his name. St. Peter goes through some files and pulls one out. Oh, yes, we've been expecting you. You've reached your allotted span, said St. Peter. How can that be? Said the accountant. I'm too young to go. I'm only 48. No, that's impossible. Why do you say that? Well, we've been looking at your timesheets and the hours you've charged your clients. By our reckoning, you're at least 93.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh my God. Oh, bad.
After worship one Sunday, a little boy told the pastor, "When I grow up, I'm going to give you some money." "Well, thank you," said the pastor, "but why?" "Because my daddy says you're one of the poorest preachers we've ever had."
Kids say the darndest things.
Yep.
A minister who was very fond of pure hot horseradish always kept a bottle of it on his dining room table. He offered some to a guest who took a big spoonful. When the guest finally was able to speak, he gasped, "I've heard many preachers preach hellfire, but you're the first one I've met who's passed out a sample of it." And wait till it comes out.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. I was trying to find.
Somebody hellfire. That's a good
Yeah, that's
one.
right. That's a good one.
Yep, I gotta remember that.
Here's a good one. It was Palm Sunday, but because of a sore throat, 5-year-old little Annie stayed home from church with her mother. When the rest of the family returned home, they were carrying palm fronds. Annie asked what they were for. "People held them over Jesus' head as he rode by on a colt," her father explained. "Wouldn't you know it?" Annie fussed. "The one Sunday I'm sick and Jesus shows up and offers pony rides."
Right.
Oh, my
A young
goodness.
couple invited their pastor for Sunday dinner. While they were in the kitchen preparing the meal, the minister asked their son what they were having. "Goat," the little boy replied. "Goat?" replied the pastor. "Are you sure about that?" "Yes," said the youngster. "I heard Dad say to Mom, we might as well have the old goat for dinner today as any other day."
Uh-oh.
Oh, my goodness. A priest and a pastor stood near a sharp curve on a busy road holding up signs. The signs read, "The end is near. Turn around before it's too late." As he stood by, a jerk in a sports car yelled, "Idiots!" and he shook his head as he drove by, blasted his horn, raised one finger, and stomped on the gas.
Oh.
Moments later, the clerics heard the sound of screeching tires, followed by a big splash. The priest turned to the pastor and said, "Maybe we should change our signs to bridge out."
Right?
That's a good one. Right?
Sunday school class was studying the Ten Commandments. They were ready to discuss the last one. The teacher asked if anyone could tell her what it was. Susie raised her hand, stood tall, and quoted, "Thou shalt not take the covers off thy neighbor's wife."
Oh, my gosh. There was a baptism in a church, and 5-year-old Emma watched intently as the pastor poured water on the tiny infant's head and said some important sounding words. Confused by what she saw, Emma leaned over and whispered in her father's ear, "Daddy, why is Pastor Bob brainwashing that baby?"
Brainwashing. That's cute. This year, for our pastor's birthday, the congregation decided to give him a new suit. He was so touched by the gift that the following Sunday he stood before everyone with tears in his eyes and announced, "Today I will be preaching to you in my birthday suit."
Oh.
Oh, my goodness. A man appeared before St. Peter at the pearly gates. "Have you ever done anything of particular merit?" St. Peter asked. "Well," the man said, "once I came upon a gang of bikers, who were threatening a young woman. I approached the largest and most heavily tattooed biker and smacked him on the head, kicked over his bike, ripped out his nose ring, and threw it on the ground. 'Now leave her alone,' I yelled." St. Peter was impressed and said, "When did this happen?" "Oh, just a couple of minutes ago."
Oh, wow. A priest and a rabbi are in a car crash, and it's pretty bad. Both of their cars are totaled, but neither one of them is hurt. After they crawl out of their cars, the rabbi says, "So you're a priest? That's interesting. I'm a rabbi." "Wow, just look at our cars. There's nothing left to either one of them, but we're unhurt. This must be a sign from God that we should meet and be friends and live together in peace." The priest replies, "Oh yes, I agree. It's a miracle that we survived and are here together." "And here's another miracle," says the rabbi. "My car is destroyed, but the bottle of wine didn't break. Surely God wants us to drink the wine to help celebrate our good fortune," he says, handing the bottle to the priest. The priest nods in agreement, opens the wine, drinks half of it, and hands it back to the rabbi. The rabbi takes it and puts the cap back on. "Aren't you going to have any?" says the priest. "Not right now," says the rabbi. "I think I'm going to wait until after the police make their report."
As the pastor's wife was checking on their 8-year-old son who was sick in bed, he asked to see his father, who was in the study working on an important sermon. "Oh, he's busy, honey, and can't come up right now," replied the mother. "But I really, really want to see him," the boy persisted. "Sorry, dear, but he's tied up now and can't be disturbed." "Well then," the boy said, "tell him I'm sick and I want my pastor to visit."
An elderly woman died last month who had never been married. She requested that no male pallbearers be used. In her handwritten instructions for a memorial service, she wrote, "They wouldn't take me out while I was alive, so I don't want them to take me out when I'm dead."
That's bad.
All right, here's for my Catholic friends.
Okay.
You ready? A drunk staggered from the bar, careened down the street, and somehow managed to make it up the stairs into the cathedral. Once inside, he crashed from pew to pew, finally making his way to a side aisle and into the confessional. A young priest had observed his trajectory and figured the fellow needed some help, so he entered his side of the confessional booth. The priest sat in silence, finally beginning to wonder if the man had passed out. So he said, "May I help you, my son?" A voice replied, "I don't know," obviously the drunk. "You got any paper on your side?"
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
Clean up in the confessional.
Yeah.
If that's ever happened before.
Right. A
Not to me, it
Jewish
hasn't.
a Jewish rabbi and a Catholic priest were good friends. They were at a community picnic one day and the priest was eating a ham sandwich. You know, he says to his friend, this ham sandwich is simply delicious. I know you're not supposed to eat ham, but I don't understand why something as good as this would be forbidden to you. Why don't you just break down and try one? To which the rabbi replied, sure, at your wedding.
Uh-oh.
A businessman ordered flowers to be sent to the opening of his friend's new branch office. When the businessman got there, he was shocked to see that the flowers with the inscription read, Rest in Peace. He was outraged. So he stopped by the florist to complain. Could be worse, said the florist. Just think, today someone was buried beneath a floral arrangement with the inscription, Congratulations on your new location.
Oh, man.
That's pretty bad.
Woo-hoo.
Here are some things that pastors dream of hearing in their churches. Number 1, hey, it's my turn to sit in the front pew. 2, I was so enthralled, I never noticed your sermon went 25 minutes over time. 3, personally, I find witnessing much more enjoyable than golf. 4, I decided to give our church the $500 a month I used to send to TV evangelists. 5, I volunteer to be a permanent teacher for the junior high school Sunday school class. 6, forget the denominational minimum salary. Let's pay our pastor so he can live like we do. 7, I love it when we sing hymns I've never heard before. 8, since we're all here, let's start service early. 9, Pastor, I'd like to send you to this Bible seminar in the Bahamas. Number 10, nothing inspires me and strengthens my commitment like our annual stewardship campaign. Number 11, I couldn't find space to park outside. God bless.
Oh, please send those to me.
Yeah, I won't have to.
Screenshot those and please send those to me.
A burglar broke into a home and was looking around. He heard a soft voice say, Jesus is watching you. Thinking it was just his imagination, he continued his search. Again, the voice said, Jesus is watching you. He turned the flashlight around and saw a parrot in a cage. He asked the parrot if he was the one talking, and the parrot said yes. He asked the parrot what his name is, and the parrot said Moses. The burglar asked, what kind of people would name a parrot Moses? The parrot said, the same kind of people who would name their German shepherd Jesus.
Dad, I want to ask you a question, said little Josh after his first day in Sunday school. Of course, said his dad. The teacher was reading the Bible. He was talking about the children of Israel building the temple, the children of Israel crossing the Red Sea, the children of Israel making sacrifices, said little Josh. So what's your question? His dad asked. Well, didn't the grown-ups do anything?
Right. Here's for all you coffee lovers. A married couple arguing over who is making the coffee. The wife said that in the Bible it says men should make the coffee, and the husband asked her where it said that. The wife opened the Bible and said, right here, in Hebrews.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Hebrews, oh my God.
A collector of rare books ran into an old friend who told him he had just thrown away an old Bible that he found in a dusty old box. He happened to mention that Guten somebody or other had printed it. Not Gutenberg, gasped the collector. Yes, that was it. Do you know what you have done? You've thrown away one of the first books ever printed. A copy recently sold at auction for $500,000. Oh, I don't think this book would have been worth anywhere close to that, replied his friend. It was scribbled all over in the margins by some guy named Martin Luther.
Mm. Oh boy.
That right there is a multi-million-dollar Bible.
So do we have
Yep.
any feedback on our amazing jokes there? In the,
So far, no. They
I know
br-
that Mark has got a lot of material for Sunday.
right?
I definitely want that one.
How about the preachers?
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me screen grab that and I'll send it to you.
That's funny.
Pastor Riley was in the middle of his sermon when he noticed a man had fallen asleep with his head on his wife's shoulders. "Hey," Pastor Riley said, "wake up your husband." The wife smiled and replied, "You put him to sleep, you wake him up."
Right. Right. I agree. Two old friends met one day after many years. One attended college and was now very successful. The other had not attended college and never had much ambition. The successful one said, how has everything been going for you?" "Well, one day I opened the Bible at random and dropped my finger on a word, and it was oil. So I invested in oil, and boy, did the oil wells gush. Then the other day I dropped my finger on another word, and it was gold. So I invested in gold, and those mines are really producing. Now I'm as rich as Rockefeller." The successful friend was so impressed that he rushed to his hotel, grabbed a Gideon Bible, flipped it open, and dropped his finger in a page. He opened his eyes, and his finger rested on the words chapter 11.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
The preacher bought a lawnmower at a yard sale. "It runs great," the seller said. The next day, the preacher brought it back. "Runs great, huh? I couldn't even get it started." "Oh, it runs just fine," the seller said with a smile. "But in order to start it, you first have to cuss up a storm." "Not sure I can do that," the pastor protested. "I haven't used that type of language in years." "Not to worry," the seller said. Just keep pulling on that start cord, and it'll all come back to you in no time."
Right. I've had a few mowers like that in my lifetime, yes. An old preacher was dying. You did this one the other day. An old preacher was dying. He sent a message to his banker and his lawyer, both church members, to come to his home. When they arrived, they were ushered up to his bedroom. As they entered the room, the preacher held out his hand and motioned for them to sit on each side of the bed. The preacher grasped their hands, sighed contentedly, smiled, and stared at the ceiling. For a time, no one said anything. But the banker and lawyer were touched and flattered that the preacher would ask them to be with him during his final moments. They were also puzzled. The preacher had never given them any indication that he particularly liked either of them. They both remembered his long, uncomfortable sermons about greed, covetousness, and avarice behavior that made them squirm in their seats. Finally, the banker said, "Preacher, why did you ask us to come?" The old preacher mustered up his strength and then said weakly, "Jesus died between two thieves, and that's how I want to go."
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. A man was walking along the beach enjoying an afternoon vacation stroll when he heard someone screaming. Looking around, he saw an obviously distraught woman kneeling next to a little girl. The man quickly determined the child had swallowed something that was blocking her airway and held her up by her heels to give her a quick thump on to her neck. Sure enough, the child started to sputter and cough and spit a coin into the sand. "Oh, thank you, sir," cried the grateful mother. "You seem to know exactly what to do. Are you a doctor?" "No, ma'am," the man replied. "I'm retired, but I am the chair of the stewardship committee for our church."
Oh my Lord.
Boy.
An elderly man lay dying on his bed. Suddenly, death's agony was pushed aside as he smelled the aroma of his favorite homemade chocolate chip cookies wafting up the stairs. Gathering his remaining strength, he lifted himself out of bed, leaned against the wall. He slowly made his way out of the bedroom and, with intense concentration, supported himself down the stairs, gripping the railing with both hands. In labored breath, he leaned against the doorframe, gazed wide-eyed into the kitchen. There, spread out on the kitchen table, were literally hundreds of his favorite chocolate chip cookies. Was it heaven, or was it one final act of heroic love from his devoted wife, seeing that he left the world a happy man? Mustering one great final effort, he threw himself towards the table, landing on his knees in a rumpled posture, one hand on the edge of the table. The aged and withered hand quiveringly made its way to a cookie near the edge of the table. Feeling the warm, soft dough actually made the pain of his bones subside for a moment. His parched lips parted. The wondrous taste of the cookie was already in his mouth, seemingly bringing him back to life. What, then, was this sudden stinging that caused his hand to recoil? He looked to see his wife, still holding the spatula. She had just used it to smack his hand. "Stay out of those," she said. "They're for the funeral."
Oh boy.
My home church welcomes all denominations, began the cynical Christian, adding with a smirk, but mainly they prefer 10s and 20s.
You can count.
You might be a country church if, 1, the doors are never locked.
Right.
2, the call to worship is, "Y'all come on in." 3, people grumble about Noah letting coyotes on the ark. 4, the restroom is outside.
Mm-hmm.
5, opening day of deer hunting season is recognized as an official church holiday. Number 6, the annual stewardship drive, there is at least one pledge of 2 calves. 7, never in its entire 100-year history has one of its pastors had to buy any meat or vegetables. And 8, when it rains, everybody's smiling.
Those are good. Bishop Ben, you have any jokes over there?
Not really. I'm just enjoying listening to you all talk. You all are good. I do have one, but I'm gonna have to clean it up really well. It wouldn't be appropriate for
Better than
podcast.
that one I did on Sunday.
I think Bishop has heard it before. But
Oh, I'm sure I have.
I'll save it for later.
Here's one for those of y'all who remember the days. Bishop's into sound, so he ought to remember this. Back in the days before churches had wireless microphones, a preacher was wired for sound with a lapel mic. And as he preached, he would move briskly about the platform, jerking the mic cord as he went.
Yeah.
Then he moved to one side, get wound up in the cord, nearly tripping before jerking it again. After several circles and jerks, a little girl in the third pew leaned towards her mom and whispered, "If he gets loose, will he hurt us?"
That's a good one.
I would say that would be a good one, but I'm
No,
not
ma'am.
sure with
No,
your
ma'am.
congregation.
No. As my grandmother used to say, no, sir, ma'am. No, sir, ma'am.
I remember a Baptist preacher having one of those and literally falling off into the baptistry during a baptism.
Yeah.
What a shocking experience that was. That
Yeah.
was for the baptistry person.
I've had to,
Right.
I've been in a church that had one of those, and I'm a lot more constrained than I used to be, but I usually move a lot while I speak. And, yeah, that was a rough, because I was worried about tripping over it every time.
Mm. And they were never long enough to go anywhere, neither.
Nope, never.
So
My
I was
goodness.
glad when they came out with the wireless microphones.
Yep.
Oh. Don't get me started on the Sennheiser microphone, the Countryman headsets. Oh.
Yeah, I had one of the first Countryman headsets that came out. The real thin ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was attached to a Sennheiser belt pack.
Right.
It was actually a pretty good system. It was actually a pretty good system.
Well, I like Sennheiser. A lot of churches can't afford them.
Yeah, it was expensive. I think the
Yep.
microphone was more expensive than
The headset.
the wireless system.
Right.
Yep.
So, little insider baseball to all of those that are sitting in our audience going, I've always wanted to know about sound.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Here's.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
A lot of people don't understand how the church actually makes the sound system. This is out in front of the congregation. A lot of them don't know what goes into it.
Right.
If the
Go
sound's
ahead.
right, no one notices it. If the sound's wrong, everyone notices it.
Yeah.
Right.
Bingo.
All right. I got some for you. The Jeff Foxworthy style.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh.
You know you're in a redneck church if the finance committee refuses to provide funds for the purchase of a chandelier because none of the members knows how to play one. You know you're in a redneck church if people ask when they learn that Jesus fed 5,000 whether the two fish were bass or catfish and what bait was used to catch them. You know you're in a redneck church if, when the pastor says, I'd like to ask Bubba to take up the offering, 4 guys stand up.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know you're in a redneck church if, on the opening day of deer season, the church is closed.
Mm-hmm.
You know you're in a redneck church if a member of the church requested to be buried in his 4-wheel drive truck because it ain't never been in a hole it couldn't get out of.
Wow.
So that gives me an idea right there.
Yep.
You know you're in a redneck church if the choir is known as the OK Corral.
Wow.
That's,
Yeah, right. You know you're in a redneck church if the congregation of 500 members, there's only 7 last names in the church directory.
oh, my God.
Wow.
You-
Could you imagine having to put those in alphabetical
right?
order?
Really?
I know, right?
You know you're in a redneck church if people think rapture is what you get when you lift something too heavy. That's one for Blackbird right there.
Yep.
You know you're in a redneck church if the baptismal pool is a number 2 galvanized wheeling wash tub.
Yep.
Yeah.
Been there. You know you're in a redneck church if the choir robes were donated by and embroidered with the logo from Billy Bob's Barbecue. That's bad. You know you're in a redneck church if the collection plates are real hubcaps from a 1956 Chevy pickup truck.
I've seen that happen.
You know you're in a redneck church if instead of a bell, you're called to service by a duck call.
Whoa.
You know you're in a redneck church if the minister and his wife drive matching pickup trucks.
Yep.
You know you're in a redneck church if thou shalt not covet applies to hunting dogs too.
It.
Eh.
You know you're in a redneck church if the final words of the benediction are, y'all come back now, you hear?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You ought to do that some Sunday.
I have been, I've been in a few redneck churches in my lifetime. There was a lot in the Pentecostal churches. And a lot of those. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen some of those. Those are not that far off.
Or you could say you're in a redneck church if the parking lot's full of Kubotas and side-by-sides. Or turn to your tractor and sitting in the parking lot.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you know what an agnostic dyslexiac insomniac does?
Oh, Lord.
He stays up all night wondering if there really is a dog.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Oh,
my
boy.
goodness. I got one for you. You might be in an MCC church if one of the stained glass windows was sponsored by the Augusta Leather Bears.
Uh-oh.
No lie found there.
Now, if they had a set pick, and it would be a different story, right?
Right?
Well,
Never mind. Forget I asked that question.
When Jesus was hanging on the cross, he looked out into the crowd and saw St. Peter. He called out, Peter, Peter, come here. So Peter tried to reach Jesus, but the Roman soldiers around the foot of the cross pushed him back. He looked up and Jesus repeated, Peter, come here. So Peter tried again to reach the cross. This time the Roman soldiers knocked him down and kicked him a few times. Picking himself up, St. Peter heard Jesus calling him again, so he dashed between two Roman soldiers and went right up to the foot of the cross, saying, Yes, Lord. Jesus said, Peter, I can see your house from here.
Man.
oh, Lord.
That's
Oh.
so bad.
What cigar are you smoking tonight, Bishop?
I am smoking my factory throwout 99 sweet cigar. What do you got?
I've got the Buck Snort's Churchill, Connecticut blend.
Very
That
nice.
sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds really, really good.
We had a really good cigar a little while ago called Leaf by Oliver. It was a really good cigar wrapped in tobacco leaf instead of plastic. And it was very smooth.
I will have another one of those.
Those were good.
Buy some more of those because that was
How long do they last?
it was a solid
Probably
hour
45
plus.
minutes or more, yeah.
Yeah, it was at
easily.
least an hour burn.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was a slow burning cigar.
And the wrappers were all made with what looked like recycled paper, too.
Mm.
Kind of a cardboardish recycled paper.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I
good
like
cigar.
it. Kind of lasts long. Have a slow burn.
well, it was a really good cigar. And I have to say, I've been a little disappointed in these throwouts lately because they burn unevenly. This pack I've gotten, it kind of burns unevenly. So
Yeah.
I'll have half the cigar burned up on one side and the
Yeah.
other side not.
Yeah.
And so I've been a little disappointed lately.
Have you had
Well,
any?
see, you're used to smoking those Drew Estates that burn perfectly.
True.
So we've shared funny church jokes. You have any church moments that are hilarious that you've experienced?
Oh.
Well, I had
Man, go ahead, Bishop.
no, go ahead.
I remember when I was serving at the Baptist church in El Paso. The pastor got up on stage, got up on the platform, started opening the sermon up with the topic of the sermon. Was halfway into the sermon, some old lady sitting in the very back pew. You know how the church always says, turn your phones off, mute them, whatever you got to do. Well, she didn't. So the phone starts ringing. The pastor on the platform, he said, hello. You want me to wait? You want me to wait till you can answer your phone call? I was so bad. Every time I looked at her, like, are you gonna answer? Or are you gonna turn it off?
That's one of
So I
those.
can wait. I can wait.
That's one of those cringe moments.
Right.
But the way he said it, you had to be there. Like turn around, he goes, hello. Like he was answering the phone.
Right.
It was so bad.
I had a little old lady once that was arguing with me about scripture and the infallibility of scripture, inerrancy and infallibility of scripture. And she was getting frustrated with me. And she says to me, she says, well, what Bible do you use? And I said, well, I use the New Revised Standard Version. She says, I don't. I use the King James Version because that's the one Jesus used. Yes.
Oh,
I got one along those lines. I've told it to you before. Similar situation after the service. I was approached by somebody and they were saying, "Oh, I just don't agree with you on the particular point I was making, and I don't think that that's right." So we talked about it and talked about it, and she still said, "I just don't think that that's right. I think that you have misinterpreted the Bible. I think that the apostles and even their wives, the epistles, would agree with me."
Yeah.
The epistles.
Oh
I
boy.
love that.
Yeah.
I had to walk away on that one.
Yeah.
I had another situation where, speaking of lapel mics, there was this service that I was at, and we used to do in the Pentecostal church what they call tag team preaching. I don't know if you've ever had anything
Yeah.
or seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Tag team preaching. And
Mhm.
so we had gone through our worship portion, we had gone through everything, and the first preacher was up preaching. And this happens often in certain churches where, when it gets to the preaching portion of the sermon, sometimes the sound person will step out, will step
Right,
away from
right.
the soundboard.
Yep.
So this particular night, someone had stepped away from the soundboard. Well, the second preacher, the second preacher skirted off to the restroom,
Oh,
wearing
no.
his lapel microphone.
Oh no.
And so you hear loudly the doors open. You hear the stall open, and it was one of those creaking stall doors.
Oh no.
And you hear the echo, and the one preacher's over here preaching, and he's losing his train of thought because he starts hearing all these sounds. And so you hear the other preacher who's in the bathroom unknowingly, and he's going, "Oh." He starts peeing, so you can
Oh,
clearly
no.
hear the peeing. There's nobody at the soundboard, and then all of a sudden, in the most echoey sounding bathroom in America, it sounded like, he lets out a long bit of gas,
Oh, no.
echoing, and he goes, "Ooh, that's better."
Oh my God.
Oh Lord.
Needless to say, there was no tag teaming that night because he was too embarrassed.
I bet he was.
I bet you that was into that sound guy's job too.
You had so many people running to that sound booth, but none of them knew what to do.
All right.
And by the time they got the sound person back,
Too late.
yeah, it was all over. Somebody had reached the pastor or the minister and told him to turn his microphone off. So I always cringe when a minister's like, "Can I just leave my microphone on and y'all control it at the soundboard?"
Oh no.
Well, see, I do that because I never leave the soundboard. So I do that. I prefer you all leave your bell packs on.
See,
Because sometimes you all get.
see, even when I go to the restroom and I have my belt pack off, I disconnect it.
Right.
Yes,
Because
that's what
I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just too, because I don't want a sound person controlling my
Right.
microphone,
Right.
because they fall asleep on the soundboard, and or they're
Well,
just
see,
not
that's
not paying attention.
what happens when you have, and I don't mean to be mean, but that's what happens when you have a volunteer that's not trained in sound
Right.
and doesn't know what they're doing.
That happens.
That's why a lot of the churches I worked for they hired an actual sound engineer, which I do have a certificate in training in sound engineering from Full Sail University.
Yeah,
So they preferred having a sound engineer behind the board.
Right.
I never left the board. Never.
well, see, I used to actually go in and set up or clean up sound systems in churches.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I've done professional audio mixing for media companies and stuff like that. And so a lot of times I'll go in and clean stuff up, and
Yep.
or a church gets a whole new system and they ask me to come and set it
And
up.
install. Yep.
And so, um, I'm very much aware of sound, and I'm very cognizant of it during a service.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be. the same trying to tell Bishop, and I know Bishop gets it too. But sometimes a lot of people that work with other churches don't get it. Is sometimes like you have a worship leader, and I've always had this happen, a praise team or a praise team leader. Oh, I want to tell you how to do it. I said, you're up on the platform. You're not going to hear it in front of the house.
Right.
Yeah.
You are not. So what you hear on the platform is a whole different animal what you're hearing in front of the house.
Right.
See, like last Sunday, I had gone in last week and tweaked our stuff because a lot of it got
Kind
off.
of messed. Yep.
We think somebody dusted the soundboard and just moved some
Uh-oh.
dials, and so
Time to get a dust cover and cover it
Yeah.
up.
so I had everything tweaked. So I get to the pulpit on Sunday morning, and I purposely turn my microphone on just to see.
Yep.
And the very first thing that I do, greeting everybody, just so that I can hear if the mic's working, as opposed to not doing anything till I get to my sermon. And I I get there and my microphone's at half volume. I'm like, what in the world? So I finish up what I needed to say, first song, and I make a beeline to the back.
Yep.
And somebody had slid my microphone slide down to half. And I was like, nope, bring it back up to unity, because I
Yeah.
have tweaked it in. And, but sound does throw me. If the sound's off, it throws me.
Yeah, it does, and that's what I tell people. That's what I tell. I had a hard time telling the volunteers at the church I worked at is when the pastor is thrown off by the sound, it throws his whole game off.
Yes, it does.
We have to be us sound people have to be on our game, on top of everything, because if we miss a step, the praise team gets thrown off. The whole thing gets thrown off because of us.
It does.
Well, people
We have to be.
people tune you out. And
Yeah, they do.
here you are, have worked on a particular message, and you feel like it's something that we need to hear, and then you realize everyone's distracted at this point.
Right.
No one's hearing what you're saying, and that's what throws me off. Not that I'm not mad because something happened. I'm disjointed because people are distracted,
Right.
and they're not hearing what I have to say.
Right.
And you think about it. Some ministers, we have one service a week, and you get 20 minutes with your people
Make an impact.
times 52.
Yep.
And that's how much time you have with your people a year.
Yep.
You think about it. That's not a lot of time. And then I'm out of the pulpit with special guest speakers or taking a day off, say 10 of those times a year. So now you're down to 42 times
Yep.
20 minutes, and that's how I think about it.
Right.
And so it's very important that stuff's right. If it's not right going over the internet, people are going to turn you off. They'll go to something else.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I try to tell people this is not aimed at you all, but other churches. You see other churches on TikTok. If the sound is messed up and they're not hearing it clearly in the first 5 seconds, they're done.
Right.
Or the video is messed up, they're done. They're moving on to the next person or the next video, which is sad. You have to be able to encapsulate their attention right off the bat.
Right.
And it's sad that we had to think about that way, but it is. Unfortunately, it is with the way it is.
Right.
Even when I was working at the Pentecostal church in Conroe, if the worship service wasn't thumping in the beginning and there wasn't enough bass, people were just up and up, walking around, going out, in and out, not paying attention. But if you had that music thumping, they would be in their pew.
Right.
I had to capture their attention in the first few seconds of the service.
Yeah.
And it was hard because you had a few congregation members. It's the bass is too much, or it's too loud, or I said, well, if it's too loud and you have a hearing aid, do not sit in the center of the sanctuary because that's where the sound is. Move
Right.
up to the top.
All right.
And I had to tell that. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. That's going to wrap us up for tonight, as we are pressing time now.
Yeah. I lost track of time. I'm
But
sorry. That's my
no, you're all right. Well, we've had a wonderful discussion tonight, had great jokes, and I hope everybody's had a great night with us. We will be back next Saturday for our next podcast. Until then, keep shining bright, my friends. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Expanding Your Faith. For more information on Expanding Your Faith, check us out on facebook.com/Expanding Your Faith. We are available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever you find your podcasts. Until next week, when we once again attempt to expand your faith, keep shining bright.